Uh, Hello everyone. Sorry for the short delay. Am I audible to everyone? Like if someone can just comment that my voice is properly audible or not. Yep. So my name is Mrinal Jain, and I'm working as a front-end developer for Witty Feed. I'm from India. I'm a developer circle lead from Developer Circle Indore. That's about me. I'm also contributing to the open source communities from past 5 years. I've started working as a developer circle lead from 1 year. Yeah, it's been 1 year. So today we're going to talk about virtual reality, and after that we'll see in brief that how we can build a VR scene over web. Yeah, so over web. So basically you will be able to see that VR scene onto your browser. So if anyone has any questions, just make sure you post it in the comment section so that we'll take those questions later on. Okay. Yep. Now, so three major things which we'll be covering today. First, as I said, VR. What is VR? Second thing, since we'll be building it over our browser, so we need to know what is web VR. So second would be web VR. And third thing, aframe.io, which is a library which is built on top of 3.js, which we'll be using to create a web VR scene. Okay. Now, if let's start. So first question which arises, like, what is web VR? What is web VR? Now, as you can see on your computer screen that like a player is playing table tennis, and the in front of that racket is playing on its own. A girl is like doing a painting with the help of some virtual device. So all those stuff which you are seeing. So basically, if we want to define what is virtual reality, so it is nothing but it's a computer generated environment, or we can say it is a computer simulated environment, which helps us experience something which is not real with the help of special headsets. You might have heard about different type of headsets which are available in the market. If we'll see it. Okay, so about after knowing about VR, we'll be needing some sort of special headset to experience the VR scene which we are creating. Okay, so there are generally two types of hardware devices which are available if we broadly classify them. So first one which we'll see, it is something which is in which a mobile device is needed to use it, and the second one which we can say are tethered. So if we're talking about the first one, which we use with the help of mobile, so all the tracking and all the all the tracking happens with the help of the mobile. So what we have to do is we'll have to keep our mobile device into that headset and then use it accordingly. So if you can see it in the first row of your screen, there's one Google Cardboard, so which is available. So all these devices which are there in the first row, we need to use a mobile headset, and all the sensors of mobile are used to track the user's movement. The second set of devices which are available, those are known as tethered devices. Now, what are tethered devices? In tethered devices, you don't need you don't need to keep your mobile phone into that device, because those devices have their own screen, and those devices have their own controllers as well. So with the help of those controllers, you will be the device will be tracking your movement and showing you the VR scenes. Now the examples are Oculus Rift, HTC Vive, and all this stuff which you guys are seeing in the second row. Okay, so now after talking about the devices, if we'll talk about the VR ecosystem, like how is it growing and how it has been in past few years. So there are definitely very few opportunities, where very few marketplaces where you can sort of publish your VR application if you have created any VR application, if you have created any app from VR. So there are very few places. So basically what I'm trying to say is the ecosystem is closed, because like if you have created any VR app, you'll have to sort of get it approved from someone who's already someone's app store or something like that. Basically it's not open source. So the best option which suits to make anything open source is to create it on web, right? The best option is to create it on web, because web is already open source, right? So web is already open source. Now you might understand why we mentioned web VR initially. So here comes web VR. Now what is web VR? So WebVR is a virtual reality platform with the advantages of web, and obviously it's open source. So now the problem which we were facing initially with the VR applications, that there were a lot of gatekeepers, we weren't able to publish our apps. The WebVR platform solves it. If you will be building any application on with the use of WebVR, by default it would be open source. And since creating anything on web is easy, because you just need some basic knowledge of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, which you use to make a website, and you can create VR scenes with the help of it as well. We'll see it later on. So now, if I talk more specifically about like how you will be creating a VR scene on website using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So the WebVR APIs are these browser APIs which brings the WebGL rendering to the headset. So this WebGL rendering to the headset. So with the help of this WebVR APIs, we are able to bring down the virtual reality experience, which is like super fast and super amazing on your website. Now, since this technology is still new, so there is a problem, not a problem, this thing arises every time the browser support. Like if you are creating anything on web, even if you are creating a simple website, you might face problems with different browsers, right? Like something's not working on IE, something's not working on some other browser, because there are a number of browsers. So talking about the browser support, so it's still a bit on the lower side, but with the help of the polyfills, you can easily create the VR scene working on any sort of browser. Now, when I say polyfills, so polyfills are something like in a simple language, we can say polyfills are something which help us create that environment which is not possible in the actual browser. Or if I say again, if I say another definition, so polyfill is a layer between browser which is sort of not supporting the WebVR and the plus the implementation of it. So polyfills basically help us create a VR scene on our browser. Polyfills which are not supporting, so polyfill will help us create that support. Now so this was basically like all about like how we are going to see the things. Now there's something which now if we talk about creating a VR scene, so in general if we see around us, we call it a universe, right? So in terms of virtual reality, what is a universe called? We call it a metaverse. That's how it is. Now what WebVR does is, with the help of WebVR, we have to sort of do a lot of stuff. We need to use the WebVR APIs. We need to help, like we need to set up a polyfill and all that stuff, and then start creating a WebVR scene, sort of, which is sometimes, which is very sort of problematic, because let's say if I'm creating a big project, like a huge project on WebVR, then I might then I might be needing to sort of customize each and everything. In that case, using the browser APIs and WebVR APIs is very sort of helpful, right? Because I'll have to sort of import a polyfill, set up a camera, so like initialize the scene and all that stuff, like uh, how is the render initializing and all that stuff. But what if I want to create a simple VR scene, like just a simple VR scene? Like I don't want to create a big project, but just a simple VR scene. What if I'm starting and I want to create a VR scene? In that case, all this doing all this boilerplate thing, like every time, it would be much difficult, right? So there's another solution to this. Like above WebVR, how can we create a VR scene which is very easy to create, which is like much easier to create? Now, after WebVR, with the help of the 3.js, I'll later come on to it, what's 3.js. So a solution came up, a library which was made, which whose name is aframe.io. So what this aframe.io works is, it takes care of all the boilerplate code of native APIs. So when I say boilerplate code, it means that, like, initially while using WebVR, whatever you guys must be needing to create the setting up the environment and like the creating the polyfill and all that stuff, this aframe.io, this takes care of the all that stuff. You don't need to do anything. You just need to sort of insert a library into your HTML code, and you can start working. If I'll show you the example of aframe.io, let's have a look. So here is an example which I would like to show. So in my head tag, if you guys can see, I've just imported one script tag which says it comes from the CDN of aframe.io. So for using the aframe.io, you just need to import this JS, and your browser is ready to create all sorts of virtual reality components. So what aframe.io is basically, it is built up on the 3.js. 3.js has like sort of huge set of 3D models and components, and since aframe.io is built upon 3.js, so you can use all the 3D models which are available in 3.js, and this helps to also create a custom elements for us. Now, coming back to aframe.io. So since just like a HTML tag, if you want to create a div, so you just write a div and then you end a div tag. So similarly, in case of aframe.io, you have a scene available. So whenever you are creating a virtual reality scene, you need to start with a scene tag and you need to end a scene tag. So whatever things you are creating, whichever component you are creating, everything will be created inside this A scene. Now, if as I said that this aframe.io is created on top of 3.js. So as you can see on your screen, that in case of 3.js, if you want to create a box, So it would take sort of like 4 lines of code. You'll have to sort of initialize the geometry, then you'll have to mention what kind of material it is, and like it's a box, and then you need to set up the position and all that stuff. So this is the code which is for 3.js. Now in case of aframe.io, if you want to create a similar box, you can do it just with the single line of code, and which looks exactly similar to HTML. You'll start a box, you will end a box tag, and then in between, just like we mentioned the attributes and properties in HTML, you can mention color and position and all that stuff. So just look at the difference. Like in 3.js, the same code was of like 4 lines, and in in aframe.io, it has come down to just one single line. So that's how it is. Now, if we'll now it's like a time to create a first hello world program with the help of aframe.io. So as we saw that we can everything in aframe.io, everything in a scene comes in between of a scene tag. So if there's a scene tag created and ended, everything in between will be rendered on the browser. So as I can see that there's a box created on the first, and then there's the second tag is of cylinder, the third one is of sphere, and the fourth is a plane, and fifth one is a sky. So if we'll see that all this stuff, how it would be rendered on HTML, so let's have a look. So I have copied down the same code on my code editor, and let's see how it goes. Let's see if we run this, how it goes. Yeah. So with those 4 lines of code, we were able to create this. We were able to create this UI. This is like completely virtual reality scene. If you have a VR headset and if you are watching it in your mobile, you just need to toggle the VR scene with this button. So it would be sort of like completely visible in your VR headset as well. So you can do that as well. Now, so this is like, if we'll match this thing with the code. So the first thing which I kept was a box which had this color, and the position was this and rotation was this. So it is like clearly visible over here. The second one was a cylinder, then it was a sphere. So everything is like clearly visible over here. So this was the sort of a basic example of creating a scene in aframe.io. Now, another important thing, or another reason why aframe.io is like becoming very famous, because it works with sort of any framework. It can work with Angular, it can work with Vue, it can work with React, it can work with anything. And also in aframe.io, you can toggle your elements with the help of JavaScript. So you can directly use JavaScript over on your scene, and you can change the color and change the position of the object at runtime. You can basically, the DOM manipulation is very easy. So just like you do it with your HTML websites, you can do DOM manipulation over here as well. So that's the reason it's much easier. So languages which you can use, as I said, you can use it with any framework. So it can be used with D3.js, it can be used with Vue.js, React and Redux, everywhere. Another important thing, another major advantage of A-Frame is that you don't need to you don't need to be a developer. You don't need to be a developer to create a A-Frame scene. Yes, you don't need to be a developer. So because you don't need to code everything. You don't need to code every single model in aframe.io. Even if you are a designer and you're working on some tools like Maya, Blender, and Magic Voxel, so there are like different tools. There are different 3D modeling tools. So what feature aframe.io provides is that you can create any 3D model in this tools, and then you can later on import it as a model in your view.js in your aframe.io. You can import it in aframe.io. So just like we had these spheres and cylinders and everything, you can just like we had this cylinder, this sphere, and all this stuff. Whatever 3D model you are creating in your tool, you can import it over here. Now, one major thing about aframe.io is that it works on entity component system. So as by the name, it might be clear that what is entity component system. So everything in aframe.io, everything which you are creating, every model, every single layer which you are creating, basically acts as an entity. So even if you are if so basically acts an entity, and then later on you provide it with different components. You provided geometry, you provided shape, you provided size, so it later on changes. So if you are creating an entity, so basically a small entity looks like this, like entity looks like this, and this is without any component. So it has no sort of, basically it has simple entity without any geometry or anything. So creating a entity, you need to provide it with different components. So like components as in, like you can provide it geometry, you can provide it height, width, color, and different things, rotation, and everything, like what kind of material it would be having, what kind of things it would be having, is it a square, is it a rectangle, and all that stuff. So this is how you can create a custom entity in this is how you can create a custom entity in aframe.io. And when would we be requiring to create a custom entity? Let's say we already have some simple models like square and circle and everything available. But what if we want to create some random shape? Or let's take an example of a scene which we are creating, where it's raining. So we need to create water droplets, right? So in that case, we'll have to create a custom entity of water droplets. So that's where creating a custom entity is very useful when you want to create some random objects which are not available in 3.js, which we'll have to create by our own. So in that case, we'll have to use the custom entity. Now, since we also have since it's a open source community, so like it's available on GitHub as well. So like we have more than 60 contributors, and we are also available on Slack if you guys want to sort of work on projects, if you guys want to work on some similar aframe.io projects, if you want to have a look at different aframe.io projects. So we are available on Slack and Stack Overflow as well. Now, these are the few examples of the websites which are created with the help of aframe.io. If we can have a look at it, so I'll show it to you. Okay, so this is one of the website. It is like a completely 360 video. If you'll see another one, which is like Shopify. So there's a 360 video over here as well. Or if we take a simple example. Now, let's have a look at different examples of aframe.io projects. So, we just saw a basic example of aframe.io. Now let's have a look at another example, which is of a 360-degree image. So as you can have a look, so with the help of WebVR, we have just converted a simple panorama image into a VR scene. Like I can see up, I can see down, I can go everywhere. So if you'll have a look at it of the code of this simple project, so it would be just like this. So I have like every VR scene, I started with a scene, and then I used a sky tag where I gave the URL, or where I gave the source to the image, and I mentioned the rotation attribute, which has X, Y, and Z axis, and then I closed the tag. And then just simply I used a text which had a value, and also I gave it a position. So in just this simple 4 lines of code, what I could create is, in just the simple 4 lines of code, what I was able to create is this. So if I want to, so just like this image, I can also use a video tag to convert a normal video into a sort of a 360-degree video. You guys can try it when you are trying to use this aframe.io later. So now, another thing which I would like to mention is, while you will be working, how to inspect it. So let's say I am into an example of hello world, and I want to have a look at how actually my scene was created. So I'll zoom out. So this is basically the plane on which we are working. This is the plane. So I can have a look at it on from the both the sides, from every side. This is how it is. Now let's say if I want to work upon this sphere. So what I can do is, I can go over here. Say if I don't want a sphere over here, I want a cone. So I can put up a cone and have a look how my scene will be visible. I can change its position. If I want to work upon this square, and I want to change its color, so I can, if I want to keep it red or something, so I can do that as well. So this is how inspector works. Like I can actually have a look from all the various angles how my VR scene is working, how my VR scene is building up. And then later on, I can do the similar changes in my HTML file as well. So yeah, this is how it is. There are many more examples available on the aframe.io website. As you can see at the left side of the screen, so there are like so many examples. There's a painter, there's an image gallery as available as well. So if you can have a look at it. So this is also a VR scene. If I want to watch this, it's like completely VR scene. So every VR scene which you are watching right now, which you are seeing right now, it's created with simple HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. You just need to import aframe.io, and then you can start building upon it. It's as simple as that. We had a look at few basic entities like box, circle, cylinder, plane, sky, all that stuff. There are many different entities available which you can get on the docs of section of the website, which is aframe.io, which which I'm showing as of now. So you can go through this website and create a lot of things. You can also use your phone's camera to sort of capture the objects and then later on use it in the A-frame scene. You can use all these attributes which are available. Like we just use few of them, but there are like many of them are available. Video is available, video sphere is available, light is available, image is available. So there are like so many A-frame attributes which are available. So that's pretty much it from my side. Uh, 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 I'll be answering the questions in reply to their comments to the users. My name is Mrinal Jain again. So if you guys have any questions, any sort of any if you guys are facing any problem on in starting with WebVR, if you'll be trying this aframe.io library later, if you're facing any problems, you can directly ping me. I'll be available. If you want to work on any of the project, if you want to contribute on any of the project which you will be finding on GitHub repositories, so you can just let me know. I'll be happy to help you guys. So you should try out aframe.io on the website, and you can also, it's much easier to set up on local, so you can also start working on your on aframe.io on your local machine as well. So yeah, that's pretty much it from my side. Thanks for joining, and I'll be looking forward for feedbacks from your side. Thank you.